Welcome back to Bumblebee. You already know why you clicked this link. You saw the thumbnail, you saw my face, maybe, perhaps, I don't know. Top 10 mysteries that surround the Vatican. Let's dive in. Kicking off the list at number 10, secret archives. Okay, we'll start this list off with some secret archive myths. It kind of kicks off everything that happens. The archives are 53 miles long. There's around 35,000 volumes of catalog, and the Vatican's secret archives are no joke. It sounds like some national treasure stuff, but really there's a lot to this. They're very real, but in order to see them for yourself, it's gonna have to take some time. The indexes aren't public, hence why I'm kicking this mysterious list off about them. Only scholars can access it after they're 75 years old, that's usually how it went. Their official purpose is to house the Holy See's official paperwork. And of course, it's a treasure trove of everything and anything related to the Pope. It's also full of ancient documents, because where else do you safely store a letter from Mary, Queen of Scots? Yeah, Mary was killed after serving roughly 20 years in custody, but eventually she was sentenced to death for conspiring to kill Queen Elizabeth I. Now, before she met her fate, she wrote a letter to the Pope, literally begging for her life, but of course, as we now know in history and life, the Pope did not intervene, and on February 8th, 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots was executed. Number 9, Vatican Tour. Things changed for the better come 2010. Those secret archives weren't so secret anymore. Dan Brown's bestseller, Angels and Demons, increased interest of the archives. We wanted to look into more secrets, and also National Treasure kind of helped. Weirdly enough, National Treasure comes up a lot on this list. It's a theme. People like this. Also video games too. People love this Vatican stuff. So for the first time ever, the Vatican allowed journalists to tour it. This was 10 years ago. Now, the secret archives actually put out some of those important documents. This whole event was also celebrating its 400th birthday, so it was a big step in history, of course. But later on in 2019, Pope Francis announced that the Vatican would open its archives officially. This was the 80th anniversary of Pius XII's election to the papacy, and the archives would have been open for all of those months. And out of all the times to be open, it had to be opened in March 2020. Francis said the church is not afraid of history, and on March 2nd, 2020, they were finally opened. The church may not be afraid of history, but pandemics, that's a different story. The archives were closed shortly after due to COVID-19 restrictions that same month. It's almost like it wasn't meant to happen. Interesting. Number 8, exorcise. The Catholic Church authorizes the use of exorcism to those who are deemed possessed. Yeah, not just low-budget horror movies. Real life, this is what we're talking about. Exorcisms depend on a few things. Authorization from the church, of course, is important, and the faith of the exorcist. The actual exorcism at hand is when the church asks publicly and authoritatively that one individual becomes protected against the power of evil, and they're withdrawn from their dominion. Yeah, you don't see those very often, thankfully, because that would be pretty jarring. The Catholic Church revised the rite of exorcism come 1999, but traditional rite of exorcism in Latin is still an option. So if you get possessed, sorry to tell you, it's slim pickings at this point. If you've seen a horror movie, any horror movie, these are not pleasant experiences. The demon possesses their physical body, it holds control over them, and that's when an ordained priest with permission of the local bishop, of course, comes to save the day. And in order to do so, you need to exclude the possibility of mental illness. It's gotta be legit. The late Pope John Paul II performed 3 exorcisms in his life, and Father Gabriel Amorth, the chief exorcist at the church, claims to have expelled more than 300 demons a year from the Vatican offices. That's like some Ghostbusters stuff. It's a lot of hours. They must be busy. Number 7, mafia ties. In The Godfather Part 3, spoiler alert, but there's a deal between the mafia and the Vatican, and it leads into the Pope getting taken out. It's a pretty heavy plot. I watched it when I was younger, no idea why, didn't really understand at the time, but could this be a reality? Could the mafia and the Vatican be up to no good behind closed doors? Back in 1978, September 29th, Pope John Paul I was found dead. Vatican officials declared the 65-year-old Pope's death. His cause was from a heart attack, but the fact that he was only in office for 33 days has people like us scratching our heads. We have to ask a few questions. A couple of murderinos out there are like, what happened? It's a little fishy. There's never an autopsy done at the time, and at that time, the Vatican had ties with organized crime. Because back in 1982, only 4 years later, Vatican Bank President Father Paul Marcinkus resigned from his post after numerous scandals exposed bank ties with the mafia. So the bank had to pay out more than $200 million to creditors. This was real life, not The Godfather. Marcinkus, though, he was involved in a few mysterious deaths, even Pope John Paul I, but he retired and went to Arizona in 1990, and then he later passed away in 2006. A lot of connections here that were never really fleshed out. Number 6, dead man on trial. This comes from 897 AD, and I can't believe this actually happened. It's one of those things you read about and you're like, people actually did this, like physically with their hands? Okay, interesting. The Catholic Church back in 897 AD once put a man on trial who wasn't even alive anymore. Yeah, it's a little gross. Now, it's one thing to uncover more crimes or details that somebody has done after they pass away, that's normal, but to actually bring the body of the person to court, like Weekend at Bernie's style, like physically bring them up the stairs, that's really? The Catholic Church held a trial for Pope Formosus, who was accused of usurping the papacy. So his body, dead body, may I remind you, was exhumed, dressed in the appropriate attire for court. Can't believe there is one at this point for a dead body. Then brought to court for judgment. Also, you must be wondering right now, how long were they dead for? 1 day, 2 days? Was it a week? Was it 2 weeks? 7 months. Guy was dead for 7 months. And they're like, well, just about time for that court. Let's do it. Dig him up. Of course, a deacon was appointed to speak on the Pope's behalf because, like I just said, dead for 7 months, but he was found guilty and his body was then stripped again of the garments, so now they dressed him in rags, and his 3 fingers of benediction were cut off, and then he was then thrown into the river Tiber, that same river that Romans would dispose criminals into. So they undressed a dead guy to then formally dress him again, put him in different clothes, and then once found guilty, undress him, put him in different clothes, and then tossed into a river. I don't want to say it's a waste of time, maybe just a waste of arm strength. I don't know, bring your own nose plug. This is a really gross one. Number 5, time machine. Okay, I have to throw this one on this list because this is a real theory. People actually believe there's a time machine hidden somewhere in the archives. It sounds to me like someone's playing a bit too much Assassin's Creed, but again, that's me, and I'm doing the list, so let's talk about it. The machine itself is believed to have been built by Father Pellegrino Maria Ernetti, an Italian priest and, of course, as you guessed, scientist. It's called the chronovisor, but it's not really a time machine per se. It's kind of like that thing from Harry Potter where you drop a tear in, you put your face in, then you can see the future and past and all that jazz. It's one of those. Maybe we've already discovered it, but this damn time traveler keeps preventing us from getting in there. The more I talk about this, the more I'm convincing myself. This isn't good. Let's move on. Let's move on forward in time throughout the list. Number 4, the third secret. When it comes to hidden documents in the archives, the only thing more intriguing than time travel is perhaps the third secret of Fatima. It all began in 1917 when 3 children from Portugal received prophecies. They were visited from the Virgin Mary 6 times in a short amount of time. The apparition is now known as the Lady of Fatima. The Virgin Mary told them 3 secrets. The first secret was a vision of the underworld, of hell. That was revealed July 13th, 1917. The second secret was a statement about World War I ending, as well as a prediction of another war during the reign of Pope Pius XI, should Russia not convert and should men continue offending God. The third secret, Lucia chose not to disclose in her memoir in 1943. It was written down later on and delivered to Rome finally in 1957. The third secret was about the 20th century prosecution of Christians that came together in the failed murder of Pope John Paul II. That attempt was on May 13, 1981. Which was the 64th anniversary of the first prophecy. But many believe the third secret is still unknown and that that's all just hogwash. The answers apparently lie in the Vatican. So far, many people believe the third secret has something to do with nuclear wars and natural disasters, but honestly, no spoilers. Let's just be surprised, you know? Number 3, late night text messages. Turns out the Pope liked to text people. I'm not sure if Angry Birds was on the homepage, but realistically, it probably was. Texting was definitely on the agenda, this we know. Pope Benedict XVI would send texts out to his homilies, and come 2009, the Vatican started a YouTube channel. I felt it was only right to include this tidbit of information on a top 10 Vatican list, because when else could you talk about this? I'm like, smash that holy like button, gang, let's do it. It seems fitting, I don't know. The actual channel features addresses and ceremonies, all that good stuff. Really, it's a great way to use technology. But when the Vatican dropped an iPhone app, that's how you know that we're definitely in the future. The app contained, of course, the breviary prayer book and prayers of daily masses, but like now you can adjust the font. You know what I mean? Like this is the future. We can adjust the brightness on holy books. Never did I ever think this was a possibility. Somebody tell Jesus this is happening. This is huge. Number 2, hidden proof. We've been looking for the Lord for a while now. You might see his face on a slice of toast if you're lucky. That's definitely a possibility. But conspiracy theorists believe that the archives could tell us more about St. Paul and Emperor Nero, meaning that we could find out more about Jesus, the big man himself, and if his existence was, 1, real, but also this could show us his biological descendants. How cool would that be? A great amount of people believe the Vatican is hiding proof that Jesus didn't exist. That's a popular conspiracy theory here. This would of course discredit the church, so if there was ever a place to hide said truth, the center of the whole operation is probably a safe bet. And finally, number 1, the Illuminati. They've been talked about for years. The amount of artists rumored to be part of this Illuminati program, conspiracy thing, it's insane. That's an easy rabbit hole to fall down if you're on Reddit. Be careful there. But also, Beyonce and Jay-Z, for sure Illuminati. Confirmed. Yes, many people believe that the archives are also controlled by the Illuminati. And it's a specific type of Illuminati as well. It's not the same group that runs the music industry or anything like that. It stems from after its medieval dissolution. The Illuminati, over time, elected members to enter the big offices, including that of the Vatican City. So the OG showrunners of the Vatican are the Illuminati, apparently. I mean, great, we love ending on the craziest conspiracy theory ever. That's not bad. Believe it or not, there's actually people who think that there's aliens being stored in the secret archives as well, but I don't want to spend an entire point trying to convince you because, you know, can't spoil all the secrets. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on Bumblebee. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters. Those are some Vatican secrets. Hit that thumbs up, comment down below what do you want to hear from next, and we'll get around to it. Peace. And it's a Pacific type. Pacific. It's not an Atlantic, it's a Pacific type.